All right, what do we have on the tray today? It is a FM wireless microphone, but synthesized. Pretty cool. So I got this one off of AliExpress. It's number 12385. FM frequency modulation, wireless microphone module, DIY kit, transmitter board, parts kit, electronics suite 70, 110 megahertz, 88, 108 megahertz. Anyway, yeah. So the interesting thing about this part, this kit, is it has one surface mount part, but lots of other parts, and yeah, looks pretty cool. So not only is it it does have a microphone on it, so you can transmit with the microphone, but it looks like it has a way to input data too, or input audio also, so you can use this to transmit locally music. So that's pretty cool. And this is the antenna. So if you keep the power down below a certain level and the antenna to a certain length, then it's perfectly legal to do all of this. This one says it has a transmit range of 20 to 80 meters. So, you know, that's very localized, right? You're not going to interfere with anybody. So looks like it's a good legal kit. But, you know, check in your area. Make sure you're doing the right thing. Never broadcast where you are not allowed to. So yeah, let's start building it. The first thing we'll do is we'll load on this surface mount part. It's only one part, so I'm going to put it down by hand, and then we can start putting everything else on. Okay. I'm going to put the part on here. Nice that it comes in its little case. The pins don't get bent up. Let's see here. We're going to figure out where pin 1 is. There's a notch, and it looks like pin 1 is over there. So that's how it will go on. I'm going to put some flux on the board. The flux I've been using lately is this Kester flux. This is number 186 flux. And I think the only way you can buy this is big gallons of it. And so there's people on eBay and places that will put in these little bottles for you and sell it. So that's nice and convenient. It has a little hypodermic applicator, so that's good. Put that down. The flux helps break down the oxides and makes the solder flow better. And I'm going to use some, I usually use 31 thousandth of an inch solder, but I have some thinner stuff for this type of work. How big is this? It's not really marked. It says 23 gauge, so I'm not sure how thick that is, but 23 gauge. So it's about half the thickness of the other stuff here. And I'm going to need some magnification. That's going to be in the way of the camera. Let's see. Still can't see that, can you? Let me back the camera up a little bit here so you can watch this. There we go. And the light's going to be blown out. Anyway, there's not much I can do about all of this. I need magnification and I need light. Okay, so I have the two corners on, so it's nice and stable now. And I will go around and solder down all the pins. It's nice to have a very fine tip soldering iron for this. And if you get some solder bridges, don't worry, you can clean those up later with some solder braid. Those look fine. All right. So let's figure out what we want to load next. All right, let me change camera here a bit. There we go. I seemed to be fascinated with these things when I was a kid, you know, FM microphones. I always thought that was a cool thing to be able to be your own radio station. I think that's probably where I got the interest in ham radios. I guess there's something magical about having RF energy go through the air. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't smell it. It just is there, and it can go long distances, and I don't know, it's just magical. It's kind of cool. I should probably put these all in the same way, but I'm not going to. It would look much better if I did, but I don't really care about looks. Decided to get out yesterday and go to the beach. If you're not familiar with Silicon Valley, it's inland. I guess that's why they call it Valley. It's inland, and it is next to the San Francisco Bay, though. But there's a set of mountain ranges between us and the ocean, so we're about a half hour from the ocean. Depending on where you're going, half hour to 45 minutes to get to the ocean. And if you go directly south from here, you go into Santa Cruz, California, which is very nice. There's some university there. If you go north, you can go to Half Moon Bay. They're famous for their pumpkins. And if you go north of that, there's Pacifica. We were going to go to Half Moon Bay, but the traffic was bad, so we made a mistake of going on Sunday. We should have gone on a weekday. So we ended up going to Pacifica. And unfortunately, there was lots of fog. So, although it's nice to see the ocean, it was a bit foggy. I grew up in the fog, so I was used to it. If you want to drive a little farther, if you drive an hour south of here, you can get to Monterey, Pacific Grove. Probably one of the most beautiful places on earth. It's one of my favorite places to go. And I think with the infection rate going down and stuff, I think we will soon go there and spend a weekend, or not a weekend, but a couple days there. Definitely, once you're retired, you find out that weekends are for staying home and weekdays are for traveling. So, yeah, so being retired, when I was working, I hated Mondays, and now I look forward to Mondays. Mondays are good. Mondays are when everybody else goes to work, and I get the world to myself. We go to a restaurant, though. The first time we've been to an indoor restaurant in about a year, so I got to actually have hot food on a plate instead of takeout. Uber Eats or DoorDash. Get tired of lukewarm food ending up at the doorstep and paper plates. So it's nice to go to a restaurant again. The best eggs Benedict I ever had was at a little hole in the wall in a little hole in the wall city. Just a place you would never imagine would have good eggs Benedict, and it was absolutely perfect. Whoever their chef was, he had learned the right way to do it, or she, or whoever it was. The town is a town called Ferndale. Ferndale is one of the most remote cities in the United States. It's kind of an artist community now. It was when I was a kid, too. Originally farmland. There's still farmers there. Dairy cattle, mostly. But it's a Victorian village, so it's all very beautiful Victorian architecture, and there are some Victorian hotels you can stay at there. There's a main street. There was a film, Last Picture Show. It was a show about the last theater closing in the town, and it was shot in Ferndale, California. I don't remember the name of the film. And there's a famous artist thing called the Kinetic sculpture race. And the Kinetic sculpture race is, at least part of it takes place in Ferndale, California, and my cousin used to race in it. And people build crazy contraptions. They have to be pedal powered, and my cousin owns a muffler shop, and so he's very, very good at welding and has access to tubing, steel tubing, and tubing benders and stuff. So he's all set up to do things like build that type of art. He has a pretty good artistic eye too. Let's see, these are 4.7 Ks. That's with a lot of small towns that lose their identity, not lose their identity, but lose their method of income, right? Like the city I was in was, a lot of fishery, a lot of forestry. Even at one time there was a whaling station there. So, things come and go, and has a lot of old-timey professions, like, unfortunately, like individual fishermen and things, fishing villages and stuff kind of go away. The towns end up looking for their identity, and a lot of them turn into kind of artsy type places. My hometown kind of turned into a bit of an artsy type place. Yeah, so my hometown used to have a whaling station. That was pretty cool. Eureka, California. Has a bay, has a navigable bay, and so back in the day, back in the 1700s, 1800s, whatever, there was a whaling station there, and there was a shipbuilding station there, and big tall ships, right? The tall-masted ships, because redwood trees are very tall, and you can build masts out of them. So they used to build ships there. A lot of logging there, a lot of trees. Let's see. I guess we'll start putting in some capacitors. Why not? Lots and lots of capacitors. Since it was on a bay, you got to do boating type things. I used to have a sailboat. I used to sail on the bay. My dad to earn extra money, was a deckhand on a tugboat. And I used to go out on the tugboat with him. And because he was doing tugboat stuff, he knew all of the captains. And nowadays there's a bridge that goes to the other side of the bay, but back when I was a kid there was no bridge, and there was a ferry. And you rode the ferry to work. If you worked at the sawmill, you had to take a boat. And so it was a passenger ferry, and my dad would take me over once in a while, and we would get to ride in the pilot house, where the captain steers the boat. And so that was exciting to begin with, getting to be up where like riding in the cockpit of an airplane, or with a train guy, being in the pilot house of the boat is really cool. And then I was a little kid, and they let me steer the boat. That was super, super, super cool of them. So it was one of those big wheels too, those big wooden wheels with the handles that stick out, just like old-timey ship. And that was all I could do to muster it, being a little kid. Turn that thing, but they would tell me, now you steer. You see that tree there on the shore? You steer towards that tree. And I would take it real serious, And I'd get to pilot the boat. What great fun. One of the tugboats had a really cool pilot house. It had a regular pilot house down on the deck, but you could go on top of the pilot house, and there was a duplicate set of controls up there. So you could basically drive the boat from way up high. And for tugboat usage, that's really good because you have really good visibility. So this tugboat had the two wheelhouses, sort of, one on the top, one on the bottom. I don't know what that's called, but I always thought that was way cool. It's a very dangerous entry to the harbor. They don't let captains come into the harbor. They actually, if you want to bring your boat into the harbor, they take a captain out to you who knows the harbor really well, and he drives the boat in. So you relinquish control to this other captain. And the channel that comes into the harbor is a weird S shape, and you have to understand that S shape, otherwise you will run aground. And so they leave that to people with expertise. And most of the harbor is shallow, so you have to make sure that your boat is in the channel. But if you have a little 8-foot sailboat like I had, you go anywhere you wanted to. If you like birds, in the middle of the bay, it's called Humboldt Bay. And in the middle of the bay, Humboldt was I guess a German explorer. Von so-and-so von Humboldt came to the west coast of California. Anyway, a lot of things are named after Humboldt Current in the ocean. Anyway, what was I talking about? Birds. So in the middle of Humboldt Bay is a island, and there are some, I think there's cypress trees or something. These trees right in the middle of the island, kind of all by themselves. Kind of an odd, just one clump of trees right in the middle of the island. No other trees like it, anywhere in town. Just right there. I don't know why right there. Anyway, they're the nesting grounds for a bird, and they're a very, very interesting bird. They're a snowy white egret. They're snow white and big birds. Have you ever seen a gray heron? Well, they're like the size of a gray heron, but they're jet white. Not jet white. They're snow white. And they have a breeding ground there. So I just thought they were birds. I mean, when I was a kid, they were everywhere. Just those big white birds, egrets. Used to always see them. There's a lot of kind of swampy land next to the bay. Cow pastures and stuff. That didn't look good. There we go. And the egrets would go out into the cow pastures, look for bugs and stuff. I don't know what they eat. Anyway, they were always around. Egrets. Just grew up with egrets. They were always romping around. They eventually put a bridge across the bay, and they used that island. Half of the bridge goes to the island, and then the other half of the bridge goes from the island to the other side. So the island is the halfway point. It's actually two islands. But, and you can go to the island now by driving there. And there's a nice restaurant out there. And a little harbor, a fishing harbor. There's still fishermen there. And then there was a man-made island that was just this little shack on pylons out in the middle of the bay, kind of all by itself. And I used to sail my boat over there, take a look at it and stuff, but it was I don't know if it was still in use when I had my boat over there or not, but it was a munitions dump. Like, keep high explosives out in the middle of the bay in case they go off. Won't hurt anybody. I don't know if that was, like I said, in use or it was like for the logging industry or something. I don't know who needed high explosives, but they were out there in the bay for some length of time. Had a good sandwich the other day. Guess I'm getting hungry. Talk about food. There's a Michelin star. I don't know if they have 1-star or 2-star. I think they're a 2-star Michelin called Manresa, very close to here. And the baker at Manresa decided to make his own bread as a side business. A lot like Acme bread, if you're familiar with Chez Panisse in Berkeley. The baker at Chez Panisse created his own bread called Acme bread. And Acme bread is, you can find that at a lot of the grocery stores around here. But that's bread out of Chez Panisse. And the Manresa guy has a couple, I think he has three locations now where you can get his bread. One of them is in downtown Campbell, California, and you can go in there, you can buy bread and pastries and stuff, but they also have sandwiches. You can go and get sandwiches there, and I had a chicken pesto sandwich from there, which was awesome. It was only $15, so getting Michelin quality food for $15 is a pretty good deal. Pretty good deal. Okay, let's see here. This looks like an inductor. That looks like an inductor to me. Huh. Where are inductors? Oh, here we go. 150 microhenries. And this is a 150, yeah. I think that goes there. Okay. I did have the opportunity to eat at Manresa once for an anniversary. It's quite expensive. Can't go there all the time. Go to the poorhouse. I've not been to Chez Panisse. A little bit out of the way going to Berkeley. I need to go to Chez Panisse. Chez Panisse has a cafe also that serves lunch and stuff, and that one's kind of a, I don't know if it's a fixed menu, but it's limited menu, and it's quite inexpensive to go to the cafe instead of the actual restaurant. Tell you how crazy food people are. So I'm all for good food, and they do it. I mean, you pay a lot of money, but it is an incredible experience. It is pretty amazing what they do, but sometimes it's maybe a bit too crazy. So, I talk about maybe audiophiles being a bit too crazy. They try to have the very best quality, and they might go a little bit overboard. Sometimes, like in cables and I don't know stuff, just maybe a bit overboard. Well, foodies can get a bit overboard too. So, Manresa makes its own sea salt. Now, you would think salt is salt. You just buy salt. You're done. Maybe you can buy good quality salt. You go to a good salt supplier. Maybe you get the cream of the crop. Maybe you pay lots of money and you get the very best. Maybe they sieve it for you so it's exactly the right size. Or so. I don't know. You can get fancy salt. No, that wasn't good enough for them. No. So they claim that they go to places like Half Moon Bay. I think they do it out of Half Moon Bay, maybe. They get on a boat and they go out, I think they say at least 20 miles into the ocean. I think they go 20 miles offshore and they get ocean water that's pure. Okay, because it's out away from everything, right? Out in the middle of the ocean. They get ocean water, and then they bring it back and they dry it themselves and extract their own salt. Wow. Maybe that's what it takes to be a Michelin restaurant, but I don't know. That just seems a little bit like snake oil to me, but I don't think it's going to taste any different. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just not that big of a foodie. I don't know. One of the more famous Michelin restaurants is north of here up in Napa, actually in Yountville, the French Laundry. Never eaten there. I have been to the French Laundry Bakery though, so they also have a spin out that's a bakery and a cafe. You can actually go there for lunch. I've had lunch there. I've had their bread, I've had their cookies. They make awesome cookies, oh my goodness. Their oatmeal cookies are to die for. Well, I like oatmeal cookies. So these are all the frequencies it synthesizes. 78.7, 78.9, 88.1, a bunch of frequencies. And here's the code to enter them. You enter the dip switch with these high-lows. And then in addition to that, there's the additional switch on the side, which is the high range and the low range. So these guys, the switch is in the low setting, and these guys, the switch is in the, I don't know, the other setting. Switch 3 low, switch 3 low, low 88 and low 10. Anyway, whatever that means. Anyway, two different switch settings for the two things here. Application, private radio, car radio transmitter, wired audio to wireless. Okay. And what did it say? It was 40, so we're operating on 5 volts. 5 volts. I say we turn it on and see if we're... All right, I hooked up power. And I've got the antenna just looped through a non-contact probe here to take a look at on the spectrum analyzer. So let me turn it on. And let me turn it on. And there we go. We get a signal. And that signal is at 103.1. All right, so that sounds like a FM thing. Now I'm going to flip this switch here, which is the kind of the high-low switch, the coarse switch. Let's see what that does. Let's see. Oh, look at that! Shifts it way high. Okay, what's that? What's that? 144 megahertz. Whoa, wait a minute. Maybe this will transmit on the ham band. What's going on? 144.4. 144.4. Yeah, that's in the ham band. Wow. Well, maybe I can repurpose this thing into a ham radio transmitter. Well, that's pretty cool. I kind of like that. Oh, let's see here. Oh, yeah. Well, it doesn't seem to be too stable. That's one thing. So if I put it back to center here, it slowly drifts high. So that's unfortunate. If I flip one of the switches, it goes low. So one of the switches is working. The other switches don't seem to work. And now when I flip the switch down, it's, oh gosh. Yeah, now it's not wanting to come down all the way. So it's acting really weird. I touched up all the solder joints on the IC thinking maybe that was a problem, but they were all fine. It does seem to be modulating. So let me whistle into it. Let's see here. So it does modulate. So that's working. Microphone. Let me tap on it. Yeah. So this high-low thing here, yeah, it's drifting up. And the other switches don't. Oh, that switch did something. Oh well. So it's just weird. So sometimes the switches work and sometimes they don't. Yeah, so that switch doesn't do anything. Oh no, that slips it down. Yeah, see, the switches do weird things. I don't know if I got a bum IC or I don't know what the problem is. That switch doesn't do anything. That switch does. Moves it back and forth. It does modulate. It's not stable though. Let's see here. Let's peak search. Let's turn the tracking on. Let's change the span down. There we go. Hello. Yeah, it is modulating, but it is drifting around. And it looks like it's modulating constantly too. Like it's got a harmonic or something in it. That's kind of weird. Yeah. I don't know what to say about this one. It's got a lot of components, got a lot of stuff. I'm just going to have to spend some time with it and see if I can't fix it. All right, so I made one change here. Something to point with. This one capacitor that wasn't marked, it was in the data sheet for 3 picofarads. I went ahead and I found a little adjustable. I think these are 0 to 10 picofarads, maybe 0 to 5 picofarads, something like that. So I put one of those on there so I could at least adjust it. And so let me show you where that got me. Can you see that over there? I think you can. So let me turn it on. There we go. So we have it, and I'm going to adjust that capacitor. And so I can now move it, right? So that's good. I can make it go, and it kind of goes and then comes back. So right now the lowest it can go is 92.5 megahertz. Can't go anything lower than that. So it's on the high side still. That's as low as I can make it go. So I want to make it go lower. And so what I did to test my hypothesis, using big words, is this section here seems to be an oscillator. There's this capacitor and there's this coil here. And I need to increase the coil, make it more microhenries to lower the frequency. I could spread apart the windings to make it higher frequency, but I need to add windings to make it lower. And I wanted to test that hypothesis out. So I'm going to take a piece of ferrite, and I'm just going to hold that ferrite in proximity to the coil. And there should be some coupling into this magnetic core and increase the inductance. So let's see what that does. So here it is. And I'm going to put that ferrite core right next to it. And you can see right there it drops, right? I can get it to drop down to 90.5. So I'm getting it to change a good megahertz by doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that coil. Right now it's a 5-turn coil, and I'm going to replace it with a 6-turn coil and see what that buys me. So, all right. Time to call this one quits. It's very, very frustrating. I can't get it to work correctly. I really can't. So I don't know if this chip is bad. I just having a hard time troubleshooting this one. I don't know why. I just can't make these switches work at all. They're either flaky or they just don't work. I've checked everything out. Everything looks okay. Maybe this chip is bad. That's all I can think of, or something goofy in the circuit or something. I don't know. There's this high-low switch that switches out these two capacitors, this one that I added, and there's one that was fixed. It does do a high-low range switch, but I can't get them to both be within the FM broadcast band. I can get one inside and one outside, or I just can't get them. Anyway, I can make, I have the low one working now. It's at 97.6 megahertz, which is perfectly fine in the FM band. So yeah, anyway, one of them works just fine, and I am getting some modulation. There does seem to be some noise on the signal, even without anything going in. So maybe it's picking up room noise or whatever. But let me broadcast a 1 hertz tone into the microphone. So it is modulating. It's moving though, so it's not stable. The modulation isn't stable. So yeah, I don't know. This one seems like it's a fail. I don't know if it was a fail by me or fail by design or fail by kit. I don't know. Anyway, it's a fail. I think it could be nice if it worked. There are other kits built around this particular IC. This one seems to be the fanciest, so I had high hopes for it. But should be able to set the frequency here and with the high-low, but this one just seems goofy. So unfortunately I have to give a thumbs down on this one. I just can't get it to work. Anyway, thanks for the ride, and maybe you learned something on the troubleshooting tips and stuff, although I never did get it to work. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses and go on to the next project.